Hello and welcome to Health Matters on Channels Television. Thank you for staying with us. I am Mary Alale Yusuf. In July, the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development confirmed one case of anthrax disease in a mixed livestock farm in Niger State. This came about 6 weeks behind a case in Ghana, which signaled the beginning of the West Africa outbreak. Anthrax is a very deadly infection caused by the spore-forming bacterium, Bacillus anthracis. It is a zoonosis, which is a disease transmissible from animals to humans. It usually affects cows, sheep, and goats, but humans can catch this disease from infected animals or through contaminated animal products. Worldwide, the estimated incidence of human anthrax disease from between 20,000, it decreased rather from between 20,000 to 100,000 cases per year in 1958 to 2,000 cases per year during the 1980s. That's according to the World Health Organization. My guest is head of surveillance and epidemiology at the Nigeria Center for Disease Control and Prevention, Dr. Ladun Okurumade. Dr. Okurumade joins us virtually from Abuja. You're welcome to the show, Doctor.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so we know that this disease called anthrax is spread from, first of all, it's in animals, but it can be spread to human beings. How does that happen?
Thank you for having me today. Anthrax is known as what we call a zoonotic disease. Zoonotic disease means a disease that can be transmitted from animals to humans. For anthrax, which is a bacterial infection, also known as Bacillus anthracis, can be transmitted into human in 3 ways. The bacteria is a spore-forming bacteria that can exist in an environment or in the soil for a long time, and it can be transmitted to human through either exposure through the skin, which is known as a cutaneous route of transmission. This is by direct contact with infected animals through wounds or cuts in human. It could also be by injection, known as a gastrointestinal transmission. This can be transmitted through eating raw or uncooked food of an infected animals or infected product of animals, including meat, milk, and some other product from an infected animal. And it could be by inhalation. Inhalation is actually the most severe form of the transmission, breathing in the spore from an infected animal through contaminated air or dust particles into the respiratory system. So these are the 3 main routes of how it can be transmitted from animal to human.
How do you know that somebody has anthrax? What do you see? What signs do you see?
So for the symptoms and signs, basically, I would say resembled other diseases. So it's kind of, we have to be very, very observant and ensure prompt reporting, because early reporting of anthrax is treatable, and if care is sought on time, the chances of survival is very high. Part of the symptoms for animal, it's quite distinct. When an animal is infected, you could present with fever, which is usually high grade. Animal will lose appetite, and classically there will be bleeding from different openings in the body, from the mouth, from the nose, from ears, anus, difficulty in breathing, and this can lead to sudden death in most cases. And the distinct thing for animal is that the blood does not clot when the animal is bleeding. Even when they slaughter the animal, it keeps bleeding until it loses all the blood. But for the human, it depends on the route of transmission, basically. For the gastrointestinal, which is the infection form. Most times, the infected individual present with symptoms like abdominal pain, aside fever, present with vomiting, and it sometimes resembled food poisoning kind of symptoms. For cutaneous, it presents as an ulcer-like sore aside the fever. Mostly, the ulcer-like has a black center, giving it a name known as a black spot. And for inhalation, it actually leads to difficulty in breathing. And sometimes inhalation also could result in what we call anthrax, meningitis, and all others kind of symptoms. So when someone presents with high fever, general body weakness, either difficulty in breathing, classical skin ulcer based on having contact or handling of an infected animal, it's better to report and have a high index of suspicion at that stage.
By the time a person begins to show these signs, how long has he or she had it?
So the incubation period for anthrax is actually up to 20 days, averagely. So it's the time of contact to the period of exhibiting symptoms is actually quite long. For anyone that has been in contact with an infected animals or animals that have exhibited the symptoms highlighted, it's better to report earlier. That what we call pre-exposure prophylaxis, post-exposure prophylaxis, where someone is being given an antibiotic as well as some other prophylaxis early following exposure to an infected animal as well as infected animal products. So if we have anyone handling any animal or animal product that has any of these symptoms, we're being advised to report as early as possible for monitoring. Thank you.
I know that animals do have some types of vaccinations that they are given. Is there any vaccination for anthrax for the animal and maybe the human being as well in existence?
Yes, surely. There is vaccines available for anthrax and is actually available in Nigeria. The Ministry of Agric, Rural Development, our counterparts that we're working closely together in responding to this outbreak has confirmed that they have an adequate stock of the vaccine for animal vaccination campaign. For human, yes, it's available, but majorly for high-risk group of individuals, those that work closely with the livestock, affected livestock.
Okay, so since there is a vaccine, would it have been a lapse or some sort of gap in vaccinations that caused an animal to come down with the disease?
So definitely not. This bacteria is actually a spore-forming and extremely resistant to extreme conditions. And it survives in the environment for decades and also survives in the soil, which makes it quite difficult to control and eradicate. And it only causes sporadic outbreaks once in a while. And spores sometimes are brought to the surface by either wet weather or deep digging, or when animals are digging deep for what to graze. And it has nothing to do with lapses in vaccination, and it's something that it takes a while before we experience any form of an outbreak.
Okay, so does it mean that, let's say a farmer is tilling his soil to plant for the year, maybe it's farming season or whatever, and he digs up some of these spores, he can just get anthrax from spores that have lain in the ground for a while?
Yeah, well, so we shouldn't forget the route of transmission. So the factors that would make it thrive actually needs to be there. It's not from every spores, it's not from every digging that individual get anthrax. The factors that make it survive, whether in the soil or the environment, also has to be available in terms of an enabling environment. At the same time, for anthrax, we also have certain high-risk individuals, especially animal handlers, those that handles the animal products, the wool, the hide, and also if we're talking about cutaneous, the wound, the escape, the route of escape of entering into human has to also be there. So it all depends on these factors being available before somebody can calm down with the infection.
Can one person infect another person with anthrax?
Well, it has actually been reported, but it is very, very rare. Human-to-human transmission, exposure has been reported, but it's very, very, very rare. Most times it's human, animal to human, and no single animal to human to human has been recorded so far in the country.
Okay, you know, some people watch. For example, they have a poultry and they see that this chicken is looking funny and it might soon die. And they kill it before it dies and cook it. And, you know, with the argument that if I cook it thoroughly, I can't get any disease from it. You know, following from that, they may also try that with an animal and say, okay, it looks like this animal is having some sort of problem and may soon go. But before it goes, so that they won't say I ate something that died, let me kill it, I'll wear gloves and cook it thoroughly. Is there danger in that?
There is a lot of danger in that. In the process of handling, processing, and killing the already sick animals, there are a lot of dangers, and such an individual is already exposing himself to a lot of infection. And that is part of the effort of the federal government of Nigeria through Federal Ministry of Agric and Rural Development, as well as the Federal Ministry of Health and Nigeria Center for Disease Control, who are collaborating closely on this anthrax outbreak response to ensure various risk communication and community engagement using various media. The key is information, the key is education, the key is communication as much as possible. And we're using various means such as the media appearance like this. We've produced a lot of IEC materials which is being circulated. A lot of advisories have been uploaded on our media, different media channels. At the same time, we're also working to produce a lot of jingles with the media houses to ensure that we pass across the right information. The key is the Nigerians need to exercise a lot of cautions when handling sick animals. Do not slaughter animals at home. Take it to the abattoir where we have veterinary officials to certify it, whether it's right or sick and fit for consumption. And any animal that is sick, at this moment, precaution is the key. Do not slaughter any animal with that is sick, because it can actually lead to a lot of significant exposure with the risk of either by inhalation or the injection, or even through a continuous route of transmission.
But they can slaughter healthy animals, right?
Unhealthy animal.
Okay, so let's take a short break now. Doctor, be back with you right after this break, and all you viewers, please stay tuned. Welcome back. We're talking anthrax on Health Matters on Channels Television with Dr. Ladun Okunmade. You can call 0808-054-2233 if you have questions on anthrax. You can tweet at CTV_Mary A. All that information should be scrolling across the screen now. You can also send email to moalale@channelstv.com. Dr. Okunmade, what should livestock farmers be doing now?
The advice, thank you for having me back. For the livestock farmers, we have been engaging closely with them through the technical working group that's been established at the national as well as at the subnational, which is multi-sectoral. And the essence is to ensure IT surveillance, increasing surveillance as much as possible. They need to look out for any form of signs in the livestock they're handling. At the same time, we've engaged them closely, we've shared contact of the veterinary officers across different states with them for quick escalation of any sick or dead animals within their farm. Any incidents of sudden death, sudden bleeding of animals should be reported to the nearest veterinary authorities or the State Ministry of Agriculture within their state. And in addition, also report to the State Ministry of Health, because aside taking care of the animals, they also need to take care of the contact, the workers within the firm and also ensure that they're line listed and thoroughly followed up. For NCDC as well, we've also disseminated our toll-free line to the public for quick escalation. They can call our toll-free line on 6232. They notice any signs and symptoms associated with anthrax that we've been discussing. Thank you.
Let's quickly get this call from Tolu in Abuja. Okay. Tolu, try again. I understand that you've dropped off, but you can try again. I understand that there's treatment for human beings. Is there treatment for animals as well? And how good is the recovery? Are there any after effects, you know, and all that?
The focus actually for ROS in NCDC is the human health.
Definitely.
We're working with our colleagues in Ministry of Agric to ensure that the animal health sector, as well as the environmental health sector, is also taken care of. And yes, for human, there is treatment, as well as for animal health, they have their own treatment options as well, which, but for NCDC, which I'm representing, our focus is majorly on the human health.
What does an infection leave behind? Are there things that, you know, marks, something they can't do, or some sort of damage it leaves behind after treatment?
So for anthrax, there is no I would say sequelae if treated promptly, and if it's promptly reported.
Doctor, can I just pause you there for a moment and take a call from Nasarawa? Hello?
Okay.
Mohammed Saliu from Nasarawa. Yes. What's your question?
Hello, Ma. Can you hear me?
Hello, Mohammed. Are you there?
Yes, Ma.
What's your question, Mohammed?
I say I want the doctor if she can explain to. Hello, Ma. Hello, Ma. Can you listen? Can you hear me?
That Mohammed has dropped off, but do try again. So, Doctor, we were talking about marks left behind after treatment, if there's something like that, or some disabilities. I think you need to unmute, Doctor.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you now.
Oh, okay. So we call it sequelae, like a long-term sequence after the infection. So it depends on how early this is presented and how early the treatment is actually started on, which could actually be mild. I would say there is no serious form of long-term, there's really no disability and there is no serious long-term sequelae. But for cutaneous, I talked about the ulcer, the skin ulcer, which naturally after a wound is healed, behind a scar, which could appear as a form of a sign to remind somebody that you've had an anthrax in the past, but it's just a form of a scarring or a scar following that. For the gastrointestinal injectional form of anthrax, following persistent digestive disorder, following recovery, there's really no long-term sequelae, except the most critical form of the anthrax is inhalation anthrax, which may leave behind some form of difficulty in breathing. And over time, this can lead to, for people that do a lung function test, sometimes it can lead to a reduced lung function test. But aside that, there is really no serious or potentially life-threatening form of a long-time consequences following this.
Okay, let's quickly take Mohammed Saliu. Hello, Mohammed Saliu from Nasarawa. Not today. Okay, Mohammed, are you there? No. So, doctor, finally, do tell. I know that they must call the NCDC or some other authority if there's sudden death of an animal for proper disposal. How is an animal disposed of that has died of anthrax? And if, unfortunately, it does happen to a human being, do you have to accord the same kind of treatment to the human being?
For animal disposal, like I mentioned, is strictly within the purview of our colleagues in in animal health, and majorly it's either by burying. They do a deep burial as disposer of the animals, and before that, they contaminate the body with appropriate chemicals, things like formalin, before deep burying. If we're in a community where there is an incinerator, that is another form of disposal. Just incinerate.
Let's quickly take Mohammed Saliu. Hello, Mohammed.
Hello, ma'am.
Yes,
good afternoon,
your question again. Good afternoon.
Yes, sir. I am Mohammed Saliu by name. I'm a medical lab technician working in West General Hospital away. So I want to ask the doctor a question. Is there any provision for we that we are medical lab personnel that we are working there if the doctor send a request to the laboratory? So is there any PPE, personal protective equipment, that we can be used to prevent ourselves? Yes. Or is there any provision for government that they think it is a new disease that is just occur? So is there any provision for us to protect ourselves?
Okay, I get that, Mohammed. Because of time, let me quickly let the doctor answer. He's talking about personal protective equipment for medical lab scientists. That's Mohammed Saliu from Nasarawa. He's asking if there's any provision for such because of this new development.
Yeah, so of course, while handling animals, even while handling samples or cases, it's advised that we wear PPE. For the coordination team at the at the central, which involves the Ministry of Agric, the NCDC, we have working together using the One Health team to pre-position medical countermeasures, consumables, as well as necessary medications for that personal protective equipment to the state level. So for the lab technicians that are involved in this response, they will key into this provision through the state veterinary officers or the state Ministry of Health. So I will advise the caller to link up to the state health authorities wherever he is to access these commodities.
All right, Doctor, thank you so much for coming on the show. That was very enlightening. It's not something we can't avoid. It's in avoiding sick animals, staying away from them, and reporting cases. Thank you so much for coming on the Monday.
You're welcome. You're really welcome. And to Nigerians, we need to exercise caution as much as possible when buying animals and when handling animals. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, viewers, for staying with me again and staying with us on the show. Have a great day. I am Mary Alale Yusuf.